This is Rick Rule for the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held live in Boca Raton, Florida, July 7 through 11. Whether you attend in person or whether you join 1,000 other people from 30 countries attending via live stream, it is our hope to bring you the best natural resources investment conference on the planet, something that we have done for 30 years. The interview that you're listening today is all about giving you the ability to meet our speakers and meet our exhibitors before the conference. During the conference, we'll give you 50 hours of intense programming over 4 days, more than you can possibly absorb. So it's important for you to know about the exhibitors and know about the speakers before you arrive so that you can allocate your time and efforts intelligently. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing a friend of very long standing, Peter Grosskopf. Peter and I have known each other, done business together, had fun together, worked together for 3 decades. Peter, first of all, thank you for 3 decades of friendship, and thank you in particular this year for being an executive sponsor of the Boca Raton Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Rick, likewise, thank you for your friendship and mentorship and the business we've done and also the friendship we've developed. And it's delighted to be here at the conference.
I think it's odd that at Sprott I worked for you as an employee and you worked for me as a director. That speaks something to the durability of the durability and flexibility of the arrangement.
That's right. We've explored every kind of professional relationship.
Let's talk about your history. Let's talk about who you are, your history, particularly in mining investment banking. Give us a bit of your background and let us understand why we should care what you have to say for the rest of the interview.
Okay. Well, I came about mining and gold, honestly, that is to say, I was philosophically drawn to it, a bit of a libertarian in terms of background. And after university, after accepting and then rejecting a job with a large bank, I started with a small brokerage in Toronto, which became BMO, as a commodity trader. And I started early on understanding futures and options, the difference between physical and paper. And I started mostly with physical commodities. Gold and silver were probably the top traders at that, and still are. After I got my MBA, I went into mine finance investment banking with RBC, which is the largest bank in Canada. And after training, I worked with Eric Sprott. I decided I could do what Eric had done, start my own brokerage with some partners, which was named Newcrest Capital. It was very successful, fairly short run, and it was purchased by TD Bank in 2000. And after working at TD for a while, I returned to Sprott to run first their investment bank, which became Cormark, and then joined Eric directly and ran Sprott Inc. as the CEO for 15 years, over which we grew assets from $5 billion to 20. And that was a very proud accomplishment of mine, or an accomplishment I'm proud of, Rick, that you helped me very much with. SCP was spun out of Sprott. It used to be called Sprott Capital Partners, and I came in as the backer and the chairman when that was spun out.
I think it's important to note for people on this call that you have functioned, among other things, as, in effect, Eric Sprott's personal investment banker for 25 years, an important accomplishment and one that will immediately resonate with, in particular, American retail investors, gold and silver investors, who hold Eric in, as we both do, very high regard. Tell us something about what sets SCP apart. This is clearly a reflection of your own architecture and probably a reflection of experiences that you've had over the last 30 years, seeing what is both good and bad about mining investment banking. Tell us what's unique about SCP.
Well, the most unique thing is that we focus only on real assets and resources. I think to most investment banks globally that have these massive franchises, whether it be Goldman Sachs or whether it be some of the Canadian banks in our sector, they tend to look at minerals as a redheaded stepchild that doesn't fit in with the rest of the bank, and at SCP, all we do is champion this sector. So that's unique for starters. Secondly, we're global. And as a mining boutique, and there are many mining boutiques that we compete with, most are headquartered and serve principally one jurisdiction, Australia, Canada, the UK. We're in all those jurisdictions. And I think it does take that to be good as a mining firm, to be global. The assets are global, our clients are global, we need to be global. And then lastly, we're dedicated, and this is in a really committed fashion to understanding the investments, to having a technical team that can tear them apart, that can redo the work, that can understand the assets deeply and technically. So finding that best of breed asset is something that we take really seriously. We think that's our job in the business. And likewise, for our corporate issuers, we want to find the best capital for them. And so we're interested in connecting them with best of breed investors. That's really our business model in a nutshell, is to do what we do, focus, and find the best possible product.
But Peter, looking back in your career and looking back in the career of some of the senior executives that you've recruited to SCP, perhaps you could tell me something about some of the best of breed entrepreneurs and best of breed investors that you've serviced over time. I found Pareto's law to be quite true, which is to say that a very small number of people generate most of the value in any particular sector. So tell me, in addition to Eric Sprott, who this club of top performing investors or top performing issuers are that are in your orbit, the people that you've served for 30 years.
Well, so to some extent, they don't make them like they used to, or they don't make a lot of them in any case. A lot of our peer group grew up when risks were taken more readily. But I would say, for starters, the family investors are very well known to me and very highly respected by me. So the Lundin family would be probably one of the foremost amongst families that have proven time and time again they know how to make mineral deposits work. They know how to bring management to mineral deposits. I would say Friedland and his group, Ivanhoe, is another example of a client I would respect because you just know he knows how to find world-class assets. Others would be Ross Beatty, the Goodmans in Toronto, Jonathan and his father before him, Ned, Pierre Lassonde. These are not just the heavyweights, but I would say they're the class acts of the business. They know how hard mining is. They're willing to do what it takes to make it successful. And they're also good people. And there's I guess Amir Adani would be another one who's built himself a fantastic franchise. He's more focused in uranium, but he's kind of a new generation example of that type of person.
Peter, one of the things that impressed me about the reach of SCP today was that we reached out to Emerald Resources in Australia. These are the people who brought us Regis Resources. In fact, your team brought that to my attention probably 20 years ago, suggesting that Emerald be an exhibitor at the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. And they basically said, given the strength of their relationship, both with me, an investor, and you all as investment bankers, if you guys think we should do it, we're there. This is a wonderful example of a serially successful team. I think we've been through them now for 6 mine builds over 25 years. And I think this speaks well to what it is you're trying to accomplish. Tell us something a little bit more, perhaps, about what would make your service to corporates, our exhibitors, more interesting. How do you compete or outcompete your peers who are numerous in investment banking?
So we're not chasing the flavor of the day. We're willing to be long-term. We're willing to look far out ahead of a company's growth and say, you need to plant some seeds to grow larger trees and forests after them. And that does differentiate us. in that we're willing to build the volume in the stock. We're willing to build the investor base from scratch. And we're really not very cyclical in doing that. We're doing it all the time. We're committed. And so unlike other investment banks who will sell the deal if it's hot, we'll hopefully build it to the point where it's hot. And I think that's very different for corporates. The other thing is that in terms of building companies, we know most of the people, we know most of the deposits. So I think that we can really help these companies with strategic advice if they are looking for other deposits to add. We have a deep advisory practice and can really help companies list and find assets, surface value on those assets.
And then wearing the other shoe, tell me something about your services to investors, either institutional or retail, and perhaps include family offices who are becoming an important constituency of our symposium.
Sure. Well, my point would be, why on earth would they want to do that themselves? Meaning, we have a technical team of probably 8 here at SCP that are just working on the geology and the engineering and the metallurgy of these deposits. We know the issuers, we know the projects. Many times we're seeing them for the 3rd or 4th time, and it's the 3rd or 4th owner that makes them work. We know the management teams inside out. So I don't understand why we wouldn't be of high value to an investor that needs to do the homework to pick investments that will hold their value and increase their value. And every part of that's important: technical, relationships, and assets. And we do a lot of due diligence. We're basically trying to find mines that will be successful.
You service retail investors in Canada. Do you serve, or do you have intention to serve retail investors in other parts of the world at any point in time?
Absolutely. So we're building now towards a launching of a U.S. FINRA registered broker dealer in the U.S. We know we need that. We can service accredited investors as it is in the U.S., but we were going to again make a unique move and build a retail brokerage network in the U.S. to handle only hard assets, which I think, Rick, you and I talked about that dream 20 years ago, and I think it's needed now more than ever.
And then finally, Peter, if we may, there's been a recently announced transaction which would see SCP become public. Are you at liberty to talk about that transaction?
I'm at liberty to give an overview, and that is, it wasn't our first choice to go public with this little boutique we have. It's very successful, it's profitable, earns good returns, and I think it's growing. But in the long run, for this business, I think you need to have other services and capital that you can bring to projects. And so our proposed merger with Strata is an attempt to build a merchant bank in the truest sense of the word, to bring capital as well, and to bring potentially asset management, insurance, and other financial products to our issuer clients. All of that resides within the context of active management and relationships in the sector. And so there's a lot of cross-fertilization. And we hope to generate that in the public context for shareholders, a company that could have leverage to our sector, pay a dividend, and trade at a reasonable multiple and be growing.
I'm personally attracted to that, Peter, because I've always, the attraction of being our own business acquired by yourself and Sprott was always that the employees could own the business and the customers could own the business. And for years, when I was at Sprott, the only people I ever promoted the Sprott stock to were Sprott customers. And I look forward to
it worked out pretty well.
It did. I look forward to you being able to offer your customers the option to become owners of the firm. Could you tell us something about the Strata vehicle, where it's listed, where it proposes to be listed, and where investors might be able to find out more about it?
Well, there'll be an information circular which is filed shortly, and that's the best way to find out about it. But it is listed in Australia, and again, another unique aspect of that will be the Australian capital markets have been much more open to mining than any other market in the last 10 years. So we hope that the global presence and a listing there will help connect us with our clients around the world. And as you say, Rick, it's all about alignment. It's about having shareholders and clients that benefit the same way that we do as employees. And we want to be shareholders and clients as well. So hopefully that completes a circle for us.
Peter, our Natural Resource Investment Symposium will attract at least 60 exhibitors, but probably 100 would-be exhibitors who we won't let on the floor because we don't own their shares, and thousands of investors in person and online. To the extent that any of those constituents, investors, issuers, competitors of yours, want to learn more about SCP, who do they contact? Who specifically do they contact? And how do they reach that person?
So our official name is SCP Resource Finance. So you find us under SCP-RF. And we do have a website. And our principal contact for investors is John Waldie. So that would be JWALDIE@scp-rf.com. So there you go. That's the address to ping.
Well, Peter, as you know, I am a Strata shareholder. I look forward to being an SCP shareholder. You and I have been friends and done business for a very long time. Thank you for that. And thank you again for your support for the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for having us again.